feels like they're leaning into Bumblebee's draft a little bit with this Treant Protector. Of course, they're playing sort of to uh how do I say this? They're playing to protect their towers with the Storm Spirit, I think. They're going to play for that later timing. They're going to try and delay the game as much as possible with this tree, and that is a good strategy, I think, if you do have these more late game oriented heroes, which is a playstyle that DogChamp does sort of foster. I think usually their game time does linger and lag a little bit further beyond. But again, you're doing this versus Bumblebees. You're doing it versus really good players that, again, should know how to push these advantages. And similar to the Felt draft in the previous game, Bumblebees just have so many good heroes. It's really incredible that they're able to pick all these heroes, it feels like for free at this stage of the game. And now I think all the pressure is going to be onto Rayolisa, who's now pretty much assuredly going into the lane that he should lose. Of course, Viper, DK, they're keeping flexibility in the draft because they have last pick. I think they do need an EE hero that's fairly telegraphed, but they can always decide whether or not the safe lane is going to be too hard for the DK, because Dragonite versus Storm, again, it's one of those matchups that doesn't really matter. You just or stun up the Storm, get a few last hits, get a few denies under your belt. You're never going to feel too countered no matter what you do on Bumblebee's side. Well, all of the pressure is going to be on the Storm Spirit.
DogChamp coming in with the fourth pick there, grabbing the Morphling for themselves. So, second time today, we're going to be seeing this Morph, and unfortunately for DogChamp, the last time we saw the Morphling, it was in Tay's hands in that previous series, and it didn't go particularly well. We mentioned for felt like they weren't really creating a whole lot of space for that Morphling, weren't really doing that sort of 4 protect 1 strategy, so maybe DogChamp can pull off something a little bit more effective there, but I don't know. The Morphling is going to need time, and the Morphling in your lineup doesn't quite do much to alleviate the concerns we had before in terms of the lockdown that Bumblebees will have to work with. The Storm and the Morph, incredibly mobile, high damage, but if they get hit up, things could get a little bit rough for them. The Morph is at least going to have the strength shift to try and bail himself out, but you still don't want to get stuck sort of in the middle there, especially now with that Winter Wyvern with the curse to really just sort of completely lock down your entire squad.
Yeah, and really now, if DogChamp, if they ever want to team fight in that pre-15 minute, they need to get on top of these supports. If they're not able to start the fight with a Pango roll beginning on that Nyx Assassin or Wyvern, and keep in mind, it's Wyvern versus Pango, so if you decide to get too good of a roll off, if they see it coming with a ward or vision, you immediately get cursed, everybody resets their positioning, you're not going to catch that many heroes off guard in the true 5v5. So I think DogChamp with this Morphling, okay, sure, you're going for now this split pushy style where you will be able to put a little bit of pressure on buildings, but again, your Storm is going to need to make so much space for you. Your Treant is going to have to pull creep waves. He's going to need to cut them for as long as he can, because every second a tower is alive is going to be more net worth, more farm going the way the core is on DogChamp. But every single team or every single member of their team needs farm. The Pango, he needs farm. The Morphe needs farm. Storm is going to need to get this Orchid. I don't even know if he's going to get an Orchid, just because, again, it doesn't feel like once they get their item timings, that's not enough this time around for DogChamp. Their item timings don't really matter. It's the item after the item after the item. For DogChamp to get a really good team fight going for them, it just takes so many conditions that I don't even know what they're going to pick here. It feels like they need a Yarn hero, because I think Yarn, while he's played the Pango, I think once or twice for his team, again, you do have Lukey. It hasn't gotten awfully counterpicked by EE just yet, but yeah, they will just go for the Rubik. And it is a really good Rubik game. I do like this pick a lot, but again, it's just going to be so much space. If Bumblebees just play a nice, quick, short, well-executed game, I feel like they might just run you over. I'm really, really scared for them right now.
Yeah, certainly, as you said, a good Rubik game, but it's a situation where there's very few, I think, scenarios in which the Rubik is really going to have the impact that they'll need him to have. If he can take maybe the Winter's Curse in the right scenario, then who knows? Maybe we're thinking about a slightly different game plan overall for them, but the Rubik is not going to have a massive effect, and if you are relying on Yarn to be the guy who sort of turns the fight around for you, then you've picked 3 cores who aren't really doing their job. So it just feels like DogChamp are in such a rough position, and now with Eternal Envy playing that Spectre, I really don't know how they're going to be able to handle this. Anytime they get jumped in on, that Spectre is presumably just going to be able to join the fight, haunt in, and really accomplish whatever they want in terms of locking these opponents' heroes down and just trying to take those engagements and then barrel their way through objectives afterwards.
Yeah, and now with the draft cementing. We even get Viper versus Morphling, which is one of the sadder matchups. Of course, B9 will be able to heal up his Morphling just a little bit, but again, I feel like they're just so stable on Bumblebees. And now they've got the perfect hero to catch you trying to split push, trying to get out on other lanes. If it's ever Z-Freak finding Ray Lisa alone, you have the jump now. You have the Spectre. You're able to make these very quick plays. And again, you pick the Rubik. It's a perfect Rubik game up until the Spectre. Now, every single haunt, you've got your easy target. Everybody else on DogChamp is pretty good at dodging out those illusions, but Rubik is not. He is going to be focused down, and that's where, sure, maybe you're able to get 1 or 2 spells off, but if Yarn isn't able to get saved by his teammates, it's just going to feel like, again, DogChamp are not equipped to team fight. They are going to need to start the fight with a Panga roll, make sure it doesn't get cursed. Hopefully, Haunt's already not used. I feel like DogChamp need to pick and choose their fights just absolutely perfectly, and then they have a shot. But then again, you're also farming and split pushing versus Eternal Envy Spectre. So it's definitely a hard game I think they've drafted for themselves.
It feels like, from what we've seen so far today, that team that gets into that position to sort of start taking those fights early and really start getting the edge on their opponent just kept on pushing forward. Of course, that's all of a 2-game sample, so maybe you don't want to draw any massive conclusions just yet, but it feels like a similar situation here. If you're DogChamp, what do you do in the first maybe 20 to 25 minutes that's going to sort of get you that advantage, other than maybe just sitting back and trying your best to farm up, get some of these early items on your cores? Maybe that's when things change, but just seems like an uphill battle for them in this one. We'll see exactly what they can come up with, though, as Bumblebee's smoking up a little bit here early. I don't think this is an actual aggressive maneuver, probably just looking for an early ward, but we do see them sort of making their way over towards the river, so don't want to rule it out entirely just yet, as Ryoya is going to lead the charge, and they're pinging it out. They want the high ground. Question is, what can they find? As of right now, not a whole lot, but here comes Luki up the ramp.
Luki? They all guessed wrong. Unfortunate.
Going to be able to back away there with the swashbuckle. Ryoya needed to be closer for the Dragon Tail, but with the slow from that dagger... no. Okay, Ryoya was catching up, but not quite able to close that gap in time, so... if you're Bumblebees, it was worth an attempt, right? Early smoke, see what you can get. You at least get a position here on the high ground where we see them start to set up some wards, blocking off this camp, I believe. So Ryoya is going to try and take that away from the Storm, make it so Ray Lisa won't have this side camp to just sort of fall back on for the extra farm.
And we'll see if Ray Mu has a sentry ward. They did sort of get the space allotted to them where they were able to move around, and I think Mu might actually miss with the sentry. We'll have to see.
Meanwhile, King RD is really just hacking away at Bloody Nine here. He's hitting him up with the poison attack. Keeping the stacks on.
Yeah, he's got a skill.
He's
I
just
don't know
dead.
if this is enough.
One more? 2 more. There we go. King RD able to get the kill. Bloody Nine, I just kind of overestimating his own durability. He put the point up in the Leech Seed, but that was still not enough. Both the sort of slow and the health being restored couldn't keep him alive, so Bumblebee's really just kind of get a freebie there. The Viper maybe had to burn through some mana, but you get first blood into his hands, and that's going to put him in a slightly more confident position here, especially trying to go up against creep on this Morphling. Really going to do his best to be as obnoxious as possible with some of this DOT.
And this is the one lane that maybe they could hazard to say they could win, just because it is obnoxious for this Viper. Treant is pretty adept at dealing with him. Doesn't really have the best armor situation, but also having to skill up that poison attack, you're not getting that easy level 2 that you otherwise would have with the Nether Toxin. But if you start falling behind on this Treant Protector, we also see that he's not gone for the boots build that we commonly see other Treant Protectors greeting out for. So this just means that Z-Freak gets to capture the wave, and we'll see how many creeps he's able to deny here. He's already... Yep, it's starting. Oh, boy.
Gets the back end of it, so... looking pretty good there. Z-Freak might be able to grab a little bit of experience for himself as well, as he's just going to keep that aggro, and...
keeps it alive, and he's just going to keep denying the range creep and one melee creep. He can keep this going forever, up until B9 decides to come contest him, but at the same time, King RD is just being perfect. He's giving a lot of space, and... okay, they're going to decide to farm it now, just because they're going to have a little bit too much of a creep surplus, but this just guarantees that both these heroes are going to get level 2, and that's when B9 needs to be so careful. Okay, at least he got XP for that range creep, but again, it was a deny, so really it's just Creep who's the sad one. He got a full wave under tower by himself, but again, this is just free levels for a lane that should be a lot harder for the Viper.
Creep's at least able to hit level 2, but Bloody 9 is still not there yet. 1.5, that's it. So he's going to be at a slight disadvantage here. Meanwhile, that Viper obviously didn't get a whole lot of last hits initially, but now with the ability to just sort of farm up in between his own towers, we are going to see that last hit count start to tick back up a little bit, even getting on par with Creep's Morphling. So Z-Freak, I mean, the man knows what he's doing. A very experienced player, and this is just going to get them, maybe not complete control, but pretty close for 2.5 minutes into the match. Creep is just a very sad Morphling at the moment. There's not a whole lot he can do. And meanwhile, Bloody 9 did go for the pull himself, did manage to pull it off, but Z-Freak and King RD just sort of push their way over. They bully the Treant out, and they're going to get most, if not all, of these last hits.
And this is the issue, though. If you can keep your poison attack, or rather your poison attack levels on par with the Morphling's morph, that's where you're in the danger zone. When this Viper hits level 3, where you have that second point in poison attack, now the Treant Protector needs to be careful. If he walks a little bit too forward in the wave, it's one poison attack, and then you're done. And that's where this hero starts to really snowball in the other direction, where your job gets so difficult that you do kind of just start to lose speed. Fortunately, B9 does have 94 damage. He has been doing a good job of contesting a lot of these ranged creeps. He's been pretty obnoxious, but they might just go for him instead? No.
He had the mana for the Impale, but he's going to hold it. Also holding it there against Creep as the Morph had already started shifting towards Strength. So, I mean, maybe they have kill potential if they go for that, but to a certain extent, the threat is actually maybe a little bit better than the actual play itself, as Moo does get picked off down in the bottom lane. The idea that this Viper and Nyx Assassin could go in onto you at any time forces DogChamp to play a little bit more defensively than if they actually go for that combo. If they go for the combo and don't find the kill, you know Z-Freak doesn't have the mana to do it again. So, to a certain extent, as I said, the threat is more important here, as Bloody 9 has to sort of play back. We see the same thing for Creep underneath his own tower. So, you're not exactly starving this Morphling out entirely, but you're at least making life a bit more difficult for him, and now Bloody 9 was being chased, but the slow there from the Nature's Grasp is really going to prevent either of those two heroes from chasing after him. But if you're King RD, you don't care. You're still just farming up here. You're taking advantage of your opponent's pulls to get some extra last hits, and you are outpacing a Morphling through the first couple of minutes.
And really, the other lanes don't really cause any... there's no reason to rotate at this point either. I think Z-Freak is pretty happy just staying here, guaranteeing the Viper is having the best time as possible. And you see, it's just getting harder and harder for Creep to walk up to these waves. He's got the Morbid Mask finally, so he will be able to regen a little bit. But again, if you are starting to draw your lanes, you draw lanes versus the team that is supposed to be better than you, your game's going to get hard. But mid...
Ryoya, he's got the stick, or the wand, excuse me. Yeah,
big stick.
Able to heal himself back up. Good attempt by Ray Lisa, though. That's the kind of stuff that I think we want to see from him. Go for those aggressive maneuvers. See if you can manage to pull that one off. Speaking of aggressive, Eternal Envy taken down in the bottom lane. They will be able to finish him off, but up top, this play is going to come at a cost. Blade 9 will be taken down. Creeps on the run as well. Doesn't have enough mana for that waveform out, but Z-Freak, similarly, low on mana. He did have the mangoes, but even if he popped him, the Impale cooldown was still not available. So they're not able to get the morph, but they do push him back once again. They find a kill onto the Treant Protector. The problem is, comes at the cost of Envy over on the other side.
Yeah, and that is sort of the issue, I think, with both lineups. Once the Pango hits level 6, he can come top, but supports can't really help the other lanes too much here, aside from maybe filling up a bottle. But Ryoya, he's gone for the soaring, he's gone for the complete other route, and he's going to try to put a lot of pressure on mid, especially having that DK form now. Unfortunately, guessed the rune wrong, but again, Z-Freak, he's happy. Gets to steal the rune away from the Storm Spirit, and I've seen Ray play the Storm Spirit so much. If he's not able to get these runes, he really is a sad man. It slows you down way more than you really are happy with, and he's not even going for the Orchid. Like I said, there's not really that timing that you can play for this time around, so he's just going to immediately rush for that Yashikaya, or the Sanjkaya.
At least able to take advantage of some stacks in his own jungle, but yeah, you really don't see the Storm Spirit doing a whole lot to be active right now, and without the runes, he really just can't, unless an opportunity just falls directly into his lap, and so far we haven't really seen that. As back up top, Z-Freak Trying to get in onto creep a little bit here. That DD rune is wearing off. Not really sure that was much of a factor in the first place, considering it's just a Nyx assassin, but they're just trying to get as much harassment in as possible. Creep that whole time was dancing through the tree line, not going after any additional last hits for himself, but now, well, Moo is here. Not really sure how much that actually affects this. He's got 2 points up in the Arctic burn, so maybe they could run down bE9 as they are going to hit him up with that burn. Z-Freak's coming in here as well. Needs to pop the mango if he wants to go for the play, and he will do so. Actually, not the mango. It was the stick that he popped. Either way, the Impale comes through, and bE9 should be taken down. Creep, very wisely, just TP out. There's no way really anything good can come of you sticking around in that scenario. So he TP's back to the tier 2. He's going to rotate his way into the jungle, and well, they'll try to catch him up as best as they can there, but this top lane has not exactly gone according to plan for DogChamp.
Well, unfortunately, I don't know what the situation was, but Luki had already used his TP, so they have to send the Storm Spirit up here instead. And this is just all free time for Eternal Envy. He has the Haunt now as well. If a fight does get full.
Jumping in onto the Viper.
Okay.
King RD taken down. Z-Freak in some trouble as well as he tried to pop the Carapace, but should still be taken out. Rayla Lisa, good rotation in there, so maybe it wasn't the hero that they initially would have wanted to bring up there, but Rayla Lisa is able to make the most of a bad situation. He finds himself a pair of kills, and that is going to sort of up the progress for him a little bit here. And now, I mean, he's got the robe. Is he actually going back for the Orchid play after all? Or is it just going to be the Kai and Asajj? He's kind of got it queued up there, but Kai and Asajj is still queued up first, so it looks like he's not going to deviate just yet. But now mid, Ryoya, okay, gonna pop that Dragon Tail to get the Impale in from Z-Freak to follow it up. bE9 not dead yet, though. It's himself up with the living armor, and okay, Ryoya's gonna be able to finish him off there. Max level Breathe Fire will do the damage, but a lot of time bought by Bloody 9. At the end of the day, you really only lose the tree. That's not going to be too bad for that DogChamp side, especially as we see both the Storm and the Morphling going to work now in the jungle.
And I was going to praise DogChamp for having two heroes that are really fantastic at holding mid, and Yarn will just be able to nuke it out, I think. He's trying to play for the ward, did actually get the deny there, but if they could keep these tier 1 towers alive as long as possible, that will force Ryoya to instead take this top tower. They almost want their top tower to die at this point, because it does mean they get that just another glyph that's going to be thrown into the DK's face. But I think Ryoya should get a little bit smart here, go finish off his Blink Dagger, don't let his timing get too slow, because once he has that Blink Dagger, that's when the Spectre can really start to get active. That's where you'll have that sort of follow-up damage to maybe take out the supports, snowball into a push, because if these supports go down, that's when, okay, now we need to bring the Panga. Now we need to take him out of the Spectre's lane and put him somewhere else. And again, there are just so many tools for bumblebees to pull ahead in that respect, where they can really drag their enemies across the map. I like that Luki, he's trying to get pressure, some damage onto this tower. EE is just being obnoxious here, and really, farm not hampered at all. He's just having a good time.
Yeah, still sitting up there, top 3 net worth-wise, so if you're the Spectre, I mean, the progress is never rapid on this hero, but it is, oh boy, it is coming, but now this could be a problem. Luki hits him up with the Rolling Thunder. Bloody 9's coming in as well for the follow-up slow, and really there's nowhere for EE to go. He does have a wand, but he doesn't get the chance to pop it. He's just stunned up continuously. Luki just showing off those Pango skills, keeps him stunned up for the entirety of the fight, and Envy does get taken down. That one just kind of casually coming into form. Rayla Lisa was sort of making his way down, but he's not even necessary. DogChamp find an incredibly valuable kill, and now the Treant actually TPs himself up top to try and hold this tier 1, but against 3 heroes, I think they're just going to have to let it go. But as you were mentioning before, they do have the glyph. They will pop it out. Even if Ryoya can bring that tower down, the glyph will be refreshed.
Yeah, and again, they would rather this happen to this top tower than their middle tower. If they can keep this middle tower alive, it's just going to keep them more active out on the map. And with Storm Spirit, the more important factor is it just gives you that easy access to the runes. You always have an idea of who has a rune, what the rune is, and you do have that Kaya finally finished up on Storm, so you do have a little bit more mana, but yeah, with the blink, easy
Ryoya
play.
Blinks in, Yaren stunned up. No way out on that one. 3-man rotation mid will net them the kill, and now, I mean, you want this tier 1 tower. Wants to get the damage onto it. They've got to clear through the creep wave first, but while they are looking to do that, bE9 starting to heal up the tower. Living armor coming into play. It's only level 1 still, though, so it's not going to be a massive amount restored, and it might still lose it. But Ryoya, without that Elder Dragon form, isn't going to have quite the same degree of damage. Envy, though, is here to help out, but DogChamp are slowly rotating into position here. Don't think they wanted to fight. They were just looking to keep their opponents off the tower. They will be successful, but now Z-Freak.
Oh,
Oh,
he did it. Farming the ancients.
max agi, low HP, and especially against the Nyx Assassin, you really can't afford to go for that sort of play, but Creep gets taken down. Z-Freak does end up dying in the end as Rayla Lisa will finish him off, but that does not matter. If you're Bumblebees, you take that trade every single time it's available, or for support, and the Morphling taken off the map for a little while the rest of the lineup attempted to get onto the tier 1. They're still not able to take it down, though. But the trade-off in the jungle is going to work out for them. Oh, God. Ryoya, that's aggressive. I don't think he realized there were so many heroes nearby until after he had blinked in, so once he realizes that there's about 4 enemy heroes there, he does back himself away, but he's able to do so with really no complications. Nobody was chasing after him. And now, looky. Okay. Ryoya's not actually going to jump in onto him there, just trying to keep him away from the camp, so no major engagement on that front, but the Pango is still trying to get himself going here, working towards that Maelstrom for the extra sort of damage output, so Luki at this point realizing, you know, the Morphling and the Storm aren't really going to be at full strength in the next maybe 5 to 10, so he is going to take it upon himself a little bit more to try and get that extra damage and maybe be that aggressor for them.
And I think sort of the NA style of Pango, I guess you could say, he's not immediately going for that Blink Dagger, doesn't even get the Arcane Boots. Instead, he says, I'll just buy Clarities instead. I have the Javelin. And this does mean, and it does sort of telegraph that this is the farm style. This is what they're going to play for. They're going to play in these side lanes. They're going to try and foster mistakes in the Bumblebee's side. The only issue is I think they're just going to go for these defensive items. Yeah, you've got 2 BKBs queued up already. He's trying to get the Agnum Scepter finished up on Z-Freak, and he's doing such a good job just being obnoxious.
He's
The
hunting.
scan just barely misses. They would just dust him if they actually hit, but I think he's just playing on the fringe of it. They got him for a tick there, but I don't think it's going to matter. And this is all time, again, where Spectre is just farming. He's going to have the completed up Echo Saber and just 800 gold. Been farming those ancient stacks with his Blade Mail, so he is just having a absolutely free game right now. And up until maybe they get a few more big items, Creep's just going immediately for the Blade, then maybe he's going to feel a little bit stronger, but this Morphling coming out of the laning stage, it still feels like he's so much further behind every other core in this game.
And the problem with this E-Blade is you put yourself in a really sort of awkward position. If Creep wants to go in for it, sure. Waveform in, hit him with the E-Blade. Your Adaptive Strike, though, is still only level 1, so it's really just going to be the Waveform and the E-Blade, and maybe that takes out one of these supports, but now you've used the Waveform to get into the fight. How do you then get yourself out? So you have that nuke potential, you can pick off a hero, but if you're pushing into the middle of a larger team fight, you could end up getting yourself into some trouble here. Speaking of fights, though, Luki wanted to go for one mid. He is going to get locked down by that Winter's Curse, but now Rayla Lisa actually going to zip his way in. Luki's going with the Rolling Thunder. They've locked down the DK. Ryoya is going to get taken down here. Now the Overgrowth will lock in the Winter Wyvern as well. Bloody Nine finds that kill. And DogChamp, maybe not the prettiest of initiations there, maybe not the cleanest either, but it gets the job done. 2 heroes down. And now a chance to push onto the tier 1, but they want King RD instead. Rayla Lisa zipping in, going for the Vortex to get the silence down as well. The disarm is in there, and yeah, King RD, he's just not getting away. Could not really move at all in that fight. And not only do they get a 3rd kill, it's Creep who finds that final right click. So he's going to get a nice bit of extra gold there, and the tier 1 tower will now be falling.
And I think they're just playing on the fact that he had that regen rune. It was a really long zip, but also sort of uncharacteristically, Moo just getting a little bit ahead of himself with the Winter's Curse. As soon as that was committed, you just very simply Rolling Thundered and then got on top of you. And once you're captured in that mid lane, there isn't much you can do versus a Pango. The cliffs are a lot more potent than those tree lines, so you can really just get those sort of perma-stun situations. And again, this is all without a Blink Dagger. Luki, he's gone for the farming build, and if he's able to keep heroes locked down the way he has been without that blink, it's just huge, because now he's going to be able to play both sides of Pango. He's able to push in the waves incredibly quickly, put this creep pressure on the map, and then make those easy rotations, because there's no real reason for him to ever slow down. You see his last hits, you see his net worth, he's already sort of peaking up into the top 3 here, and once he gets this blink dagger, that's where the permastone is going to get even scarier. And again, I don't think Bumblebees were ready for that full sort of 5-man engagement from DogChamp, and they aren't going to be completely unhappy because they are just farming with the Spectre, but this is something that EE teams are sort of known for. If they do get a little bit too ahead of themselves, a little bit too comfortable with losing fights, there is a situation where maybe DogChamp's able to snowball it just a little bit too further or too far out of the hands of the Spectre. And that's something that this Morphling does sort of allow. There is a lot of magic damage coming out from DogChamp. Even pre-F-Blade,
They
if you can get
want
on top
in.
of these heroes. Nice haunt.
Immediately jumps away. I think he
None
jumped
the
to...
wiser.
Yeah, jumped to
The storm.
Raylelisa, who didn't realize. Ooh. Bit unfortunate there. He was sort of looking towards the bottom lane, didn't have his eyes directly on his own model, I believe, so Envy's able to haunt away. That does force out your cooldown, but if he doesn't haunt there, he's almost assuredly dead. There are about 3-4 heroes coming his way, so you
And
get
now
Envy
top.
out, but now, yeah, Ryoya's in trouble. Raylelisa zipping in. Zfreak's going to try to get in there with the... Okay. Get in there with the Spike Carapace. They do hit with that Arctic, or Winter's Curse, rather, excuse me, as well, but it's not going to be enough to save Ryoya. Zfreak goes down, Moo will fall as well, and this one's just a disaster. King RD is going to back away. He threw out another Toxin there, but outside of that, he really didn't have too much left to fight with. The BKB's not finished off for him, so the Bumblebees have to fall back, and if you're DogChamp, that goes perfectly. 3 kills your way, Yaren sacrifice, but that is more than worth it for them as they push the lead to 2K, and they are really starting to make some stronger and stronger decisions in terms of where and when they fight.
And that's when one of the conditions is met. You are able to take a fight where the Spectre literally can't get there aside from TPing, but you know, it's EE. He's not going to TP to help his team. He's going to instead prioritize the farm. He knows what his hero needs to do in this game. And again, we're seeing DKs get a little bit ahead of themselves. Of course, the play isn't terrible because your Spectre is farming the safest part of the map, getting to play 2 lanes at the same time. But again, if you give up these kills over and over again, you're gonna see the gold lead sort of sway into DogChamp's position, and none of their heroes are really revved up to hit buildings yet, but they're gonna take them if you do allow them to do so. And now with the F-Blade finished up, he had a BKB queued up for a second there, but instead is just gonna go for the Lincoln Sphere. We'll see if that ends up sort of being a mistake, but now Bumblebees, they have to sort of assess when their timing is, because right now I don't think they have a really structured timing. Maybe it's double BKB, but the issue now is if you get too scared, if you don't start making plays, then you get stuck on your side of the map with 3 heroes farming, and that is a big issue for you, because right now your Nyx needs his Aghanim Scepter, both cores need a BKB, and Eternal Envy is not going to give you any of that farm. He is going to continue farming no matter what, so it's going to feel a little bit cramped on their side of the map, so we'll see if this Nyx Assassin is able to get these rotations done, because if he's not, DogChamp, I think, are going to continue to pull ahead.
And to be honest, it's actually kind of remarkable. We were talking in the draft about that exact concern, trying to find the farm for heroes, but on the DogChamp side, we were talking about the Morph, the Morph, the Storm Spirit, the Pangolier needing the ones who sort of, or being the ones who needed that farming space. So far, though, they've been able to create that kind of space while Bumblebees are the ones sort of struggling here. So not exactly what we had originally anticipated, but if DogChamp can keep up the pressure like this, then, well, as you said, it's going to get real cramped over on that Bumblebees side, and Envy's going to be locking down the vast majority of that farm, which means no one else is really going to have a whole lot to work with, as right now, Blade 9, this is very bold. He's just going to push his way through the river, looking to see if there was any sort of opportunity. I'm not sure he realized just how many heroes were there, but luckily enough for him, he's not going to push so far forward that Bumblebees actually collapse onto him. So just an interesting play. B9 is able to just sort of push everybody back without even really knowing how many enemy heroes were there. And once again, Bumblebees are operating in a very small area of the map right now. You see 4 heroes hanging out top. I think they're waiting to see if someone TP's up to defend this, but instead, they're just going to go in for the kill. They know that there's 4 up there, so they jump in onto the Lone Spectre, and Envy will be taken down. Moo TP's in for the Winter's Curse afterwards, but at this point, I'm just not sure they're really going to get anything. Raylelisa has already TP'd away. Luki is rolling himself out of that one. They'll at least catch Yaren on the Rubik, but no offense to Yaren, but who cares about that? You take down the Spectre. You will sacrifice your support every single time to get that pick off.
And immediately you see they fill the spaces. Creep TP's top. He's been the one hero that has been sort of relinquishing the farm for his 2 other cores, but now this is his time to shine. He gets all of the space allotted to him. They're not in position. I think they got Luki bottom, which is a very, very big kill, but they need to get this tower now. They need to push this in. They need to play. I think the cart, unfortunately, already died, but this tower has been the real reason that DogChamp have been able to stay out and in the positions they've been in for so long. If they can take out this tier 1 tower, this is the start for the game to really shift into Bumblebee's favor. But again, they're not going to give it up without a fight, even though Luki's dead.
Glyph comes out, supports rotate in. Raylelisa waiting for his moment as well, and Do they really go for this? Bloody Nine would
No DK
presumably...
for him, though.
He'd have to get the overgrowth down if they really wanted the fight, but at this point, okay, Bumblebee's really not going to commit for it. They're just showing a little bit of fear and a little bit of respect to that opposing lineup as there's the jump in. Yarn goes forward. King Ardito able to pop the BKB, but the overgrowth will still root him in place, but that's really just more of a defensive measure. DogChamp back away, but all the while, this Tier 1 tower just getting healed up over and over again. They did have to pop the glyph, but as you said, this Tier 1 is sort of the most important objective right now for DogChamp to defend. It just keeps Bumblebees away from so many of the things that they want to do in this match. They really can't afford to maneuver about in the way that they need to as long as that tower remains standing.
And that's where you're seeing Zfreak struggle to find plays, because with this mid-tower alive, it's much more difficult for him to ever make his entrance into the enemy team's jungle. Right now, it's even a little bit risky for him to play where he's playing, but having the ward not getting scouted out by the sentry, that's crazy how close it is, too.
B9 jumped in on Ryoya, though. Wanted Yarn instead, but he does at least push the Rubik away. So it would have been better to lock him down. Maybe they could have gone for both of those kills, but with Yarn being forced to take that step back, you completely isolate Bloody Nine, and they're at least able to find that kill. The question now is, well, what can they do with this? They're looking at the Tier 2 top, but
he's baiting.
Got 2 sentries there, so they know Zfreak was in position. Yarn's going to TP over, but they don't really see the opportunity that they would want. Lukey doesn't have too many areas to sort of bounce that Rolling Thunder off of in that particular scenario, so they're just going to back away. They did what they wanted. They lose the Treant, but they prevent any sort of push onto any tower anywhere, really. So they buy more time. Creep continues to farm, and getting closer and closer to that Lincoln Sphere, and at that point, Bumblebees are going to have to be incredibly careful with the way that they initiate into this fight. A lot of their lockdown is that sort of single target, so you're going to have to blow something to try and get through that Lincoln Sphere. Otherwise, you're just going to have to ignore the Morphling, and Creep is starting to build up some damage as well as this game goes on. So I don't really think it's going to be viable to just ignore him and try and take the rest of the lineup out first.
The only unfortunate thing is you do just sort of get to throw a Spectral Dagger and then the Lincoln Sphere is gone, but then you got Ray Bottom just being the terror with the DD rune. I think he's just going to hit this tower.
He's going to get hit up there. There's the BKB. Okay. He was waiting to the last possible second, making sure Lukey wasn't going to be able to sort of cancel out of that ult, and now Yaren left sort of holding the bag there as they will bring him down. Envy gets killed, but now Lukey, he got hit up by the Viper Strike, I believe, so he's going to have to try and TP away, but there's going to be the Witch's Curse locking him down. Creep, though, coming in. That's an interesting play with the E-Blade, but yeah, Ryoya's got the nuke damage there with the Breathe Fire, so yeah. It was a decent attempt from Creep, but it doesn't quite work out the way he wants. Lukey will fall, and your Bumblebee's good response there. You lost your Nyx Assassin solo to that Storm Spirit, but you're at least able to put together 2 kills elsewhere on the map to try and keep this close. They're trailing by 2k, but I think right now a 2k deficit is going to be okay for them. We keep coming back to Eternal Envy, just continuing to farm here. Finished off that Manta style a while back, now looking for the Scotty. So he is building himself up quite a bit as we're sort of moving into this mid-game stage.
Well, and that is something that you do have to think about if you are DogChamp. How do we win by just straight up farming? That's the question that they haven't really been able to answer just yet, even though they have been making some very clean rotations. They've been making some good plays. It feels like Bumblebee have the much easier and more telegraphed win objective. Their objective is get Eternal Envy 5 slots, whereas DogChamp, it's a little bit more complicated. And while Creep, he does a lot of damage. They're very heavy set into this magic. You have a DK who is now almost finishing up his Aghanim Scepter. I think now DogChamp need to look towards a few more of these objectives. The mid-tier 2, the Roshan, the top tier 1. They need to get something rolling in their direction, especially whenever Haunt's on cooldown. And I like this. I like that they're just going into Rosh. They need to force some stuff. And if they're not careful, they're just going to give it away for free.
It is a concern for DogChamp. Not right now, though, as they are into that pit, but they are so sort of burst heavy, so magic damage oriented right now between Creep and Rayla Lisa. And as you said, there's a BKB on King RD, BKB and an Aghanim Scepter going to be up soon on that Dragon Knight. So it is going to be tough to continue to rely on that sort of magic damage, but at least now they do have the Aegis into their hands. Rayla Lisa's going to have 2 lives to work with in this next fight, and maybe they can sort of keep this one going. They need to look for that opportunity. Creep now has the Lincoln Sphere finished off as well, so you've got your Lincolns, you've got the E-Blade combo, you've got 2 lives on the Storm Spirit. Now would be the time to try and look for something to really put Bumblebees on the back foot, maybe sort of take Eternal Envy out of his comfort zone here as well, if they can push in onto him, because the Spectre's just been sitting here farming in the jungle. We've talked about it over and over again, but as you mentioned, how exactly do you sort of deal with Envy the later this game goes? Right now, answers are limited, but 2 lives on a Storm Spirit, and Creep's ability to sort of blow up heroes could get them onto their opponent's side of the map for some aggression. And speaking of which, Lukey jumps in onto King RD. That's going to force out the BKB, though, and now this Viper, he's going to hold his ground. He's waiting for the reinforcements. Envy's coming in, and Lisa, well, going to be saved there momentarily by that invis, but it's not going to be... Ooh.
Oh, no.
Really? Okay,
No
he's
sentry.
able to zip away. Sentry does come down eventually, but it's too late. He's able to zip away and TP out. That's a huge missed opportunity for the side of bumblebEE's, but they're still looking to take this fight. Ryoya pushing his way forward. He did finish off that ag, so he has the Black Dragon form here. His teammates, though, want the engagement. Oh my god, Lisa, that is a long jump. He burned through all of his mana there. He's just looking to die and put that Aegis to use. The problem is he's not the one getting hit. Creep is actually going to get locked down instead, and they do finish him off. They do get the 2 supports in exchange, though. Both Mu and Zefreak taken down, but yeah, that's not going to be enough. Here comes Ryoya pushing his way forward. Bloody Nine falling. Yaren stunned up. And at this point, DogChamp really starting to sort of lose control of this one. The Rubik should be dying here. Lukey is not going to be able to do anything to defend his teammate. And, well, that Storm... I mean, I understand what he was trying to do. He zips in entirely hoping that they just go all in on him, use all the lockdown onto the Storm, and burn that Aegis. But if you're bumblebEE's, that's probably the least subtle play you've ever seen from your opponents. They know exactly what the Storm wanted to do, so rather than go in on him and play into his hands... they just go for creep, they lock down the Morphling, and then at that point, the Storm doesn't have the damage to carry the fight by himself.
And of course, they could have just, I think, waited. They had Glyph, they could have played that a lot slower, and then I think he might have just been able to walk there on Lisa. He could have just zipped through the tier 2 tower instead, played on half mana, but you're right, as soon as he uses that second big jump, he even uses BKB for his life to try and goat them into just killing him, it doesn't work. So you're now 200, 300 mana Storm Spirit walking around in the back of the fight. Meanwhile, all of your teammates are dying, and it was a perfect chain disable onto Creep, all things considered, up until he gets this BKB. And this is what I was worried about. Sure, you got the Lincoln Sphere, but that was an Impale that started that all off, and you didn't respect the Nyx Assassin for just a second, and now you are losing a little bit of your gold lead versus the Spectre, and this is where I was worried, where what is your win objective if you are DogChamp? Is your win objective killing the enemy team? Okay, how are we going to kill them now? It's going to get harder and harder as the game progresses, and while it felt like DogChamp were kind of working him for the earlier stages, I think now bumblebEE's are going to start to kick it up just a few notches here, and if they ever give up these kills, you already see they're gauging for the split push game. Lukey?
Oh boy.
Cool.
Gotta get jumped in on. That does draw out the Haunt, so Envy does use that, but they're able to find that kill. Now they want more. Lisa able to zip himself away, but this is going to be the problem. You mentioned they lost a little bit of that gold lead. They are still holding on to some of it, but it's going to be a bit of a delayed reaction here. bumblebEE's not only taking the fight, but now you see them breaking off, moving into their opponent's jungle. They're looking for more kills. They're looking for more farms, so you no longer have that scenario where you had sort of pinned bumblebEE's back onto their own side of the map and were limiting their farming opportunities. So the fight itself may not have swung things in bumblebEE's favor, but now with these further farming opportunities and more control of the map, this is going to shift pretty rapidly. DogChamp really are not going to be able to sort of hold this advantage for too long unless they can do something to stop the bleeding within the next maybe 2 to 3 minutes, and I'm not sure if they're in a position to do that at the moment.
And now we're getting to the point of Spectre where every item after Manta is just demonstrous. It just feels like now the game is going to get to that situation where you need to be careful when you decide to fight. Are we going to be forced into a split push position? And if we are forced into a split push position, well, Ray's trying to make plays, but this is a DK. He really thought about you. He just BKB TP, but yeah, he just walks away.
Limits now of that Storm Spirit sort of being put on display is now Ryoya. He wants back into the fight. His teammates, though, actually went on to a different target. They were looking for Yaren. They are able to lock him down, but now Lisa has a chance to push in. But again, he burned through all of his mana, and they're not going to focus him down. They do take down Yaren first, but, well, at this point it looks like they're sort of out of gas as Mu gets taken down. King RD dying.
Aegis is gone.
Actually, not dying. He's able to get away. Meanwhile, yeah, that Aegis did expire, so Lisa not working with a lot of mana, but it's not really going to matter. Lukey tracks down the kill onto King RD. They then turn around onto Zefreak, and they will still take that fight. So for a moment there, it looked like a repeat of the previous engagement. Lisa tries to zip in, hoping somebody kills him to get that Aegis going. Instead, bumblebEE do a good job of ignoring him. The problem is they ignore him, but not in a situation where they were actually in a position to win the fight that followed.
And of course, E was just farming, but something that bumblebees have been doing and getting ahead of themselves is creating these engagements whenever Haunt is on cooldown is exactly what they should be avoiding. And what was sort of the cute little plays from Ray, if they were just waiting a little bit longer, they don't commit onto Yaren and sort of suicide for the Rubik, then I think Ray would have been in a pretty scary spot. He still had BKB, but he was only sitting on maybe 200 or 300 mana. But at the same time, all those kills, they didn't lead to an objective. Nothing really happened across the map. And while you lost 3 heroes, I don't think, as much as net worth does still matter in this game, I don't think DogChamp's heroes, at least they're not effectively getting as strong as Bumblebees are the later this goes on. We've got luxury items on the Nyx Assassin. We've got AC on Rioya. We've got every single tier 5 item coming in from Spectre. It just feels like the longer we go, the harder this is going to get for DogChamp, but they don't have an opening to really cause a big gap in just the net worth and the lead. They need to make some crazy plays. Okay. Oh, it's too crazy.
Yeah, maybe that wasn't... Oh, wait! He's able to get himself away. Ray Lalisa, can he TP himself out? Yes, he can. So, he's able to get himself out of there. For now, though, it's just going to be a trade on the 2 supports, although King RD, he's kind of caught here. His teammates aren't in a position to sort of back him up just yet, but he is looking to get away. He's not going to be able to make it out, though. But Ryoya and Envy were trying to push their way forward. They're going to refocus in onto Creep, trying to get that Morphling, but the BKB is still active. He's looking for the TP home,
Oh, no.
but... Ooh. Okay, never mind. He timed it up perfectly. The Dragon Tail was in the sort of cast animation, but before it can connect, the TP will complete, and Creep is able to get himself home. If that was intentional, then Creep's timing is godlike. Otherwise, it's kind of lucky to get away before that Dragon Tail connects. 2-for-2 trade, but if you're DogChamp, it's just your 2 supports that get taken down. As
They
Envy,
saw him without
okay,
mana.
that's a problem. Ray Lalisa. That is a
And now
costly...
Luki.
Oh, wait. Yeah, that's a costly
No
play. And
mana
now
either.
Luki, he's going to get caught out. He blinks. Aeon Disc gets him the time. Can he somehow get out here? He has the TP. He's going to look for it. Can Envy cancel it? He can't, but Ryoya can. Good blink in from the DK. Gets off that Dragon
Again,
Tail stuff. Are you serious? Creep, what are you doing? Just going to waveform himself out of there. I'm not sure what he thought was going to go down. I don't think they can kill him right now, as the waveform should be back up in a few more seconds, but no, it can't. They burn the mana. Ryoya with the blink stun once again. Envy's in there to dish out the damage, and Creep, that felt so unbelievably unnecessary. He just gets caught out after making that great escape the first time around, and you cannot give Bumblebees that kind of opportunity to go back in onto your Morphling a second time.
And that's exactly what they wanted from their Haunt. It's just the one more scouting out Creep too. But I really don't know why Ray sort of gave them head to where he was. He was just farming. I don't even know if he was farming. They just caught him in a situation where he was trying to get back to the fight where Creep just barely TP'd out. Maybe if he gets caught there, the Storm Spirit needs to make an appearance. But instead, you lose all 3 cores on 3 separate occasions, and it just feels absolutely awful because now this is all in sort of the way of Roche respawning. Of course, I think their respawns are more or less going to come up in time to maybe contest this, but at the same time, it feels like now if you ever give up a kill, you're going to fall further behind. You're not going to have buyback for the fight that's going to ensue around this Roshan, and really, this is just going to get very, very difficult for them. Fortunately, they do have all of their tier 2 towers. If Bumblebees were able to get this outpost, I think the position would just be almost impossible for DogChamp to contest these Roshans, because they still want to fight. They're still able to find these plays, but right now the pecking order is getting harder and harder. The Bumblebee supports are getting tankier and tankier, and now you've got Aeon Disc finished up on the Winter Wyvern. He's building one on Z-Freak as well, and then your burst damage is going to feel a lot worse on the DogChamp side.
And this is where we come back to that sort of concern, what felt like 15, 20 minutes ago, talking about both Creep and Ray Lalisa being so sort of dependent on that burst, on that magic. With those Aeon Discs up on really the most vulnerable heroes on the Bumblebee side, who's the weak link? Who's the person you can target? Who's the guy Creep can get in there and just immediately sort of burn through? That hero may not really exist. That opportunity or opening may not be there anymore. And in that situation, now you're just basically initiating into a team fight like this. As Ryoya jumps in, stun connecting onto 2. Bloody 9 already dead. Luki has his Aeon Disc popped, and he's going to try and roll his way out of here. Looks like he might be able to get out, although, there we go. Got to hop over that ramp as he is going to be able to fall back, but DogChamp are the ones sort of looking for that fight. Instead, they lose the tree, and that's going to lead Bumblebees directly into the Roche pit off the back of that kill.
Yeah, and even though you just committed two, not even two, just one ultimate. They know exactly what's happening. They don't care that it was just a tree and kill. Everybody else backed away. They didn't even get BKB pops coming out from DogChamp's side. It just doesn't matter. But now Aegis on the Spectre. I don't know who's getting the shard, but everybody is going to feel pretty happy. It's actually shard on move for the time being. But now they're going to start pushing your objectives. There's nowhere for DogChamp to really play at this point. They need to start split pushing, cutting creep waves. Somebody needs to make a break towards top. Otherwise, again, this is going to be a pretty sad situation going forward. There's a full Aghanim Scepter. Is that ease? I think he's hiding the fact that he has an Aghanim Scepter right now on his courier.
Yeah, that is his. So he is doing some sneaky stuff right now. So wants to wait. Never mind. Okay, not going to wait anymore. Just waiting until he wasn't in vision of the creep wave to have it delivered. So now the Shadow Step is up. So if you're DogChamp, you think that the Haunt is down, and that is not the case, although Envy now steps into the lane. So they should now see, if they're checking him, that he does have that sort of single target Haunt available. And in that case, I'm not really sure what all the funny business was with sneaking the courier around before, but either way, he has that increased sort of utility. And if you're DogChamp, well, you're going to have to be careful. Z-Freak was setting up for the siege there as he did burrow in on the low ground, but Bumblebee's not going to commit for it entirely. Instead, they're going to smoke up his 4. They're looking to push their way back towards mid, towards the river, I believe. The only real hero they could run into, though, is Bloody 9, but that is still going to be at least a relatively valuable kill as they do jump in. Treant going to get burned away almost immediately. No money for the buyback there, and once again, if you're DogChamp, you can't really afford to stick around. Raylalisa has to zip himself away and creep TP'd himself up to that top lane. So if you're Bumblebees, you're not exactly pushing the high ground just yet, but you are really just controlling where DogChamp are allowed to play as Envy.
Yeah.
Getting the TP support in. They want it. Yaren's going to get hit up here. The Sentry Ward gets them the vision, and the Rubik not able to get himself away. Meanwhile, Lukey, very dangerous game he's playing here in the middle lane. Z-Freak, though, not going to be able to catch up to him just yet. But more pickoffs for the Bumblebee side. They take down both of the supports, and they're really establishing more and more control of the map right now.
Yeah, and maybe with the EE business, it's just he wants to create those man solutions to push out bottom, but not give up the fact that he has that item. Now he's got a ninja gear. I assume he's going to keep the flicker up until maybe gets an illusionist cape. Unfortunately, doesn't get it. I'm kind of glad he didn't get it. That item is a little BS, but now there's a timeless relic, probably going to put that onto either the DK or the Nyx Assassin, and then this game just continues to get harder and harder for DogChamp. That's why they've adopted this split push style, but problem now is, again, where is your win objective? Where are you going to find your opening to win this game? I think that is going to become further and further out of their reach, because now you still have this Aegis to contend with. They're going to start farming the entirety of your map. Eventually, Eternal Envy is going to start touching a tier 3 tower, and I don't know what you do after that point. He's getting an Abyssal Blade now, and that's where we might see the game really start to become too hard for them. Right now, they're trying to catch Lukey.
Shadow Step gets him in there. Actually, it was the full haunt that they used. They want that fight. Lukey, though, was able to get off the Rolling Thunder. The question is, how far away can he really get here? He's going to try his best to juke this one out. There's going to be the TP. Can they cancel it? No. So, nicely done by Lukey. Creates a distraction. Gets himself away. The Haunt was used there to no effect. So, it's certainly not a bad play, but as you were sort of mentioning, with this sort of split push that DogChamp are going for, they don't really seem to have that win condition. This is a lineup that can split push to buy time. It can't split push to win. They just straight up don't really have the heroes to accomplish that. And right now, Ryoya jumping directly in. They caught out Lukey, but he is going to be able to get himself away with that Aeon Disc, but now DogChamps, they just got to try and run. Can they get everybody out of here? Yaren turns around for the stun, so that is going to lock Envy down, but the problem is he revealed himself in the process of doing that, and now he's going to get sent up and taken down. Blade 9 in some trouble as well, but Raylalisa, okay, zipping it onto the back line, getting the Vortex down. He does have that Aghanim Scepter, so he was able to lock down both, but they've only got Z-Freak. Moo able to buy some time, going for that Winter's Curse, but his teammates still aren't in a position to follow that up, and now Ryoya blinking in, going for the stun, locking down the Storm Spirit. They hit him with the Silence here as well from that Bloodthorn. Do they have the damage to actually finish him off, though? Yes, they do. Raylalisa taken down. Blade 9 falling as well. Creep, meanwhile, standing in the middle of the Nether Toxin. Needs to try and get himself out of this. He's hoping to get away as quickly as he can, but now he's actually just going to go for the TP home, but there's Ryoya blinking in. No HP, but he's still able to get down the stun. Creep will fall. Lukey, meanwhile, tried to go for the kill. That's too greedy. He can't get it. He misses with the swashbuckle. even if you kill Ryoya there with that swashbuckle, I don't think that's worth it. You are caught in that fight. You know you're dying if you go for it. And he doesn't even actually get it. Ryoya will live. He's already starting to regen up rapidly. And I think at this point, bumblebEE's may have just broken this game completely wide open.
Yeah, Aegis is going to pop. They're going to buy back on the only hero that I think can afford to. They could do it on the Morphling as well. If the Storm has buyback there, he just immediately gets back into the fight. But now he's just going for the wave. He's trying to keep EE as far away from his buildings as possible. But okay. They can't even make a play into King RD, I don't think. He's got BKB if he really wanted to. Yeah.
And now Envy wants in for the fight. Yaren, well, there's nothing you can do. You are a Rubik against a Spectre. That is going to happen every single time. So Envy is able to sort of jump in onto him. King RD gets the kill, and now I don't really know if bumblebEE's want to stick around. They can't exactly go for the tier 4s right now. There's low HP on a couple of their cores, so they are not going after the tier 4s, but they are rotating their way top, and with multiple heroes on the DogChamp side still dead for extended amounts of time, I think they're going to be able to get this one as well. Tier 3 tower dropping down. Z-Freak, meanwhile, has burrowed himself in here. Just looking to defend against any sort of initiation from that DogChamp lineup as Luki really gave it a go, but that's just not enough. Top lane of Rax will be taken in its entirety here as well as Ryoya and Envy tear through that range. Rax, but now Lisa in there onto Illusions. That's unfortunate. Electric Vortex AoE pulls in about 3 or 4 Illusions, but no actual heroes, and that was a BKB charge being thrown out there as well, so that's down to its lowest duration, and it wasn't enough to save the Rax either.
Yeah, and now we're getting to the point where 21k up, 43 minutes into the game, you're playing versus all of these incredible late game heroes. The supports, while aren't very farmed, yeah, they're just going to keep making plays, and Luki, and just did get proc, but...
Oh, okay. Lisa in there with the Vortex, pulling in real heroes this time as DogChamp, they're trying to take this. They do throw down the Overgrowth, and some of these heroes are dropping a little bit low, but is it going to be enough? Ryoya is still fighting his way through this. Lisa will be taken down. King RD did end up dying, but he'll immediately buy back and try to TP up to his teammates, who really are just holding the line right now. Z-Freak does eventually fall, but the rest of the lineup is holding strong, and there's Moo in with the curse. That's a problem. Bloody 9 dead. Luki gone. Creep is going to get stunned up and taken down, and at this point, I'm not really sure there's anything left for them to do. Yaren was able to survive, but without his TP, he can't actually get home immediately, so he's just going to have to sit. Yeah. He's going to sit there and watch. Can't TP home. bumblebEE's will push onto the high ground, and...
Oh, it's the Ag Shard coming in from the Cold Embrace. It actually seeked onto him, so they know he's here.
Moo is going to go looking for him, but the rest of the team,
Mega's
they're objective-focused. Yeah, they're just going to take that final lane of Rax. Mega's acquired, pushing onto the tier 4 towers. No GG out from DogChamp just yet, but this one is just about over. They're going to tear through that final tier 4, get themselves directly onto the Ancient, and that's going to be the GG called, as bumblebEE's take the opening match of the series here, and they do so in pretty, I would say, dominant fashion. Their kill count may not be massively shifted in their favor, but over the entire sort of last 2/3 of that match, bumblebEE's were just in complete control.
And really, I just think they had a good start. They had a good sort of idea of what they wanted to do. Holding on to their towers as long as they did, it sort of, and you can sort of see that in the win probability, it brought them to even versus the Spectre. But at that point, I think bumblebEE's felt very comfortable going into that early late game. They were really able to finish up all the items that they wanted to. And even though it did feel like they were sort of getting outfarmed, outplayed a little bit, they always had a very disciplined approach to the map. Even though they weren't getting the most farm, they weren't exactly throwing the kitchen sink and everything at the map and trying to feed for the Eternal Envy Spectre. They really just played it really slow. They always had their Spectre farming in a lane. They always got to sort of choose what they wanted to show up in. Even though DogChamp were making the good plays on paper, they were finding the engagements where there wasn't haunt, there weren't situations where the Spectre was able to get to those fights. At the same time, none of those plays were really affecting Eternal Envy. There was maybe a 20-minute stretch there where he just straight up didn't die. After the Aegis, I think DogChamp sort of lost their opportunity to win the game there. Just because, again, maybe it's itemization, maybe it's just the heroes they sort of ended up with. I think the Spectre was just a little bit too dominating of a last pick. I think even though you had the Rubik, it was a good idea. Everybody else on your team, nobody really touches this Spectre. You even have the first pick Viper securing that you don't need to worry about that break at all. I just don't think DogChamp were really ready for that last pick Spectre. And I think now going into the next game, I think play-wise, They did exactly what they needed to do. They just need to close those little holes, make it a little bit easier for them to draft, and then maybe they can take a game off bumblebees. But again, bumblebees, I think they are the front runner coming into this series.
Yeah, definitely playing like the team that was sort of favored coming into this matchup. But as you said as well, DogChamp, I don't think this is a sort of blow it up and try something entirely new. You were sort of saying they've got some minor problems, but I think heading into the Game 2 draft, they have the means of addressing some of those concerns. Some of it will come down to the heroes, but I feel like a lot of their problems really did stem from their play as well. They went all in on a lineup that was going to have to be sort of aggressive early to make space for the Morphling, and Creep ends the game at 10 and 5. That's not a bad stat line, but you need more to really sort of get over that hump, especially going up against that Spectre on the other side. So if you're DogChamp, obviously game 1 doesn't go the way you want it to, but I think only minor adjustments are going to be necessary for them to at least stand a stronger chance at, well, not just surviving bumblebees, but potentially sort of getting one over them as well to try and fight their way back into the series.
Well, and that's sort of been the theme of the day is identifying your winning objectives, playing on it, and then hitting it hard, hard, hard. And for this DogChamp lineup, it felt like, well, Lukey, you're doing great. You're farming. You went the Maelstrom. I understand that that's what he's comfortable with. He is a Grandmaster tier Pangolier. But at the same time, if Creep is the one that's going to hit the enemy team's Ancient, if he's the one that's going to snowball your game, I think you just need to give him everything. I think you need to mirror almost the Eternal Envy Spectre play at that point. But instead, I think he got a little bit too much farm. I think he's the one who got a little bit too much space. And of course, while he was making plays, while he was doing fantastically in that early game, I think the plays really stopped. DogChamp really started playing the only defense game, and that works to a degree, but really just those 1-2 timings where they just misplayed, the Spectre just always fills that space. It always takes up the farm, and then you're playing versus a 3-4 slotted Spectre, and if you don't have a lineup that's adept at dealing with that hero, then you just flat out lose. So here's hoping they can do something a little bit better, a little bit less holes in the draft, and this way they can maybe take at least one game off bumblebees.
Mhm. Looking sort of down the barrel of the gun for DogChamp now, down 0-1 in an elimination series. So if there was ever a time to really come in with your A game, the best possible draft, the best possible strategy that your team feels comfortable with, this is now that moment. DogChamp really in a do or die scenario, so we'll see what they can come up with. Game 2 should be coming up in just a couple of minutes here, so we'll see if DogChamp can fight their way back into it, pull something out here to tie up the series, or if it is going to be bumblebees getting that clean 2-0 sweep to continue their march through this lower bracket. So we will be back in just a couple of minutes for that second game.